Good evening, everyone. My name is Elizabeth, the Education Coordinator for Marlene's Market and Deli. Tonight's special guest that we have with us, and it's always an honor for him to share his expertise. We have Neil Levin. He's a he is a certified clinical nutritionist and senior nutrition education manager for Now Foods, and he's speaking on the topic of nutrients for brain and memory health. Thank you so much, Neil, for joining us this evening.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Always a wonderful time. And you have some fabulous info to bestow upon us.
Okay. So we're going to talk about brain and memory health and the role of key nutrients thereof. Here you can see my credentials, so you know I have some clue what I'm talking about. So what do we expect from a healthy brain? We expect to have a good working memory, recall long-term memory, appropriate emotional response, impulse control, sleep regulation, interpretation of senses and movement, executive functioning skills, reasoning, in other words, and ability to respond to stressors and return to calm. There are different parts of the brain that are responsible for different aspects of what the brain does: movement, sensation, judgment, reward, memory, pain, coordination, vision. And this is a slide from the National Institute of Health. And they actually work on this. They're scanning brains to determine if they're doing brain surgery. Somebody uses their vision a lot. They make sure to avoid that section when they're doing an operation and not cut into that. Or if someone is a musician and using a different sense, they're avoiding that section. So they can actually, while they're doing operations, sense what somebody's thinking of and which part of the brain is working, and make sure that they're avoiding damaging that section that's the most important for the patient. So looking at cognitive health, you're utilizing cognitive abilities to reason, perceive, judge, or awareness itself. And of course, all the emotions. Cognition covers everything that has to do with the process of thinking, what the brain does that we are relating to. So the brain is part of the nervous system. It only rests briefly during sleep, but it always regulates vital functions. Major organ systems are recharged, new cells are rebuilt, damaged tissues are repaired. It's all coordinated by the brain. If this cognitive function is compromised, quality of life and ability to perform basic tasks declines. So what are there's the benefits of an active lifestyle for mental health and well-being. And there's, of course, nutrients and supplements that can nourish both the brain and the nervous system. So with aging, and this is from an aging medical journal, poor cognition are the reds, good cognition are the greens. Healthy young adult tends to maintain the brain and compensate for any cognitive decline, minor, that's happening throughout our life. But a loss of neurodistinctiveness and differentiation, the neural networks are not functioning properly, they're not organized properly, they're not structurally uh, there, all there. And neural insufficiency, the brain activity is suppressed and cognitive decline occurs. So these are normal things that happen during aging. They're not pleasant, but we all want to put them off as much as possible. And according to the National Institutes of Health, National Institute on Aging, these changes occur in all parts of the body, including the brain, as we age. Some parts of the brain will shrink, and there are areas important for learning, memory, planning, etc. The neurons and neurotransmitters change where there's communication between neurons declines, and we could have reduced blood flow because arteries narrow and there's less growth of new capillaries to compensate. And this slide is very important. I'm going to refer to this again. As a person gets older, some of the changes are structures called plaques and tangles develop around neurons. And this is a smaller amount than Alzheimer's disease, but these plaques and tangles are a distinctive feature of Alzheimer's disease. This is the risk factor for Alzheimer's disease rather than the disease itself. And these two things, I'm surprised that the government is acknowledging this, but they say damage by free radicals increases, oxidative and similar damage, and inflammation increases. So if you can control free radical and inflammatory processes in the brain, you will have a better chance against aging. And when we're talking about supplements and other strategies here to deal with the aging brain, we're going to keep coming back to the free radical and inflammation topic because this is a fact. This is acknowledged by the governments, even by health experts. And there are nutritional strategies to help us in that regard. So, University of California, San Francisco has a memory and aging center, and they've posted information that major declines in our mental abilities are not inevitable with aging. The brain is more adaptive than they used to think. We used to think that all the neurons you had were there at birth, that the brain would simply grow and then would decline. And that's actually not true. The brain can maintain adaptive processes and adapt to stresses, adapt to these challenges if you have good brain nutrition and good health, good genetics is part of it, of course. Lifestyle, overall health, environmental, and genetics are all playing roles, but lifestyle includes nutrition. So let's look at some of the expert opinions on how nutrition specifically affects the aging brain. Now, Alzheimer's.net has a list of foods you should eat or not eat. Foods that may induce memory loss and increase the risk of Alzheimer's, according to this organization, are these processed foods, the refined grains and the refined sugars. They also include processed foods, meats and cheeses primarily, that are heavily processed and have a lot of chemicals added, and foods containing diacetyl or nitrate, which would include some margarine, some microwave popcorns, and some beers. And the reason I say some is because obviously you can get a natural beer that doesn't have a lot of chemicals added. You can get organic microwave popcorn that does not have these chemicals added. And you can get healthy margarines in your natural product stores like Marlene's. Now, Harvard Medical School has a health publication, and the Harvard Women's Health Watch cites a study that says women who ate the most saturated fats from red meat and butter did worse on tests of thinking and memory than women who ate fewer of these fat sources. So the saturated fat in red meat and dairy products tend to affect memory even more. And if you think about the so-called blue zones on Earth, where people live the longest and the healthiest, they do not eat a lot of red meat or dairy products. So Harvard does cite the Mediterranean diet, the produce, the whole grains, the fish, and the olive oil improve the health of blood vessels. Omega-3 fatty acids, they say, are linked to lower levels of beta amyloid proteins. These are the proteins that can turn into the plaques and tangles of Alzheimer's with the right stimuli. So you definitely don't want to have these precursors of those plaques and tangles. Lower levels is considered healthier. And moderate alcohol consumption is one way to raise healthy HDL cholesterol. And alcohol can lower our cells' resistance to insulin, allowing it to lower blood sugar more effectively. Now, there's a caution here that they don't have. They're talking about 1 or 2 drinks a day maximum. 1 drink for a woman, 2 drinks for a man is the general rule. And a drink would be either a shot of a strong liquor or, say, a can of beer. We're not talking about huge amounts. A glass of wine, a few ounces is what they're talking about. And Alzheimer's.net again has foods that help boost memory for seniors and the rest of us. And I'm going to show you a few slides from different organizations, and you'll see similarities between these lists. So the first list from Alzheimer's.net, leafy green vegetables, salmon and cold water fish, which are sources of omega-3 fatty acids, berries and dark-skinned fruit, sources of polyphenols, coffee and chocolate, sources of polyphenols, extra virgin olive oil, and cold pressed virgin coconut oil. They say are all good for memory. Now we'll look at the next slide. WebMD has a similar list. They include berries, they include the fish, they've got the whole grains, they've got the fruits, they've got the chocolate, the tea, but they include beans to control blood sugar. They've got the avocados for healthy blood flow, and they've got seeds and nuts. And it's because of the fats, and the roasting or raw is not an important factor there in terms of getting the oils. Like if you're getting almond oil, it really doesn't matter if it's cooked. It doesn't have to be raw to get the benefits. Now, the BBC in England has the Good Food site, and they have 10 foods to boost your brain power. They also have whole grains. They also have oily fish. They also have berries. They add tomatoes. Strangely enough, they recommend vitamins, vitamin B6, B12, and folic acid. They've got berries again, black currants, pumpkin seeds, nuts and seeds were on the last slide, broccoli and sage, more green foods, and nuts. So we're seeing overlap between these lists. And the dietitians in America eat veggies, especially cruciferous ones. We just saw broccoli on the other slide, berries and cherries, omega-3, and walnuts, which have healthy oil, but we're also talking about omega-3 in walnuts. Now, since omega-3 keeps being mentioned on every slide, let's look at that for a minute. Ratio of omega-6 to omega-3 fatty acids is important. Dr. Andrew Weil, MD, cites the Journal of Neuroscience that proper ratio is important to maintain health with the ideal ratio between 3:1 and 5:1 of omega-6 to omega-3. So when the ratio gets above 5:1, the body tends to be more inflammatory. So that's a way for the body to maintain its proper ratio where it can maintain balance. Let's look at other nutritional support for the brain as it ages. Now, Men's Health magazine is listing 5 nutrients men are not getting enough of. And I'm only listing ones here for brain health, not the whole list. But vitamin B12 for brain health. And that's especially important because some medications will block vitamin B12 absorption, especially antacids and metformin. And these are fairly commonly used in older people. Omega-3 fats are deficient in modern diets. You have to get them from food or supplements. You don't have to get the non-essential fatty acids like oleic acid from olive oil. You can actually make that in your liver from saturated fat, like stearic acid, for example, is the major source of oleic acid in the body. There's conversion going on. ALA is the omega-3 fat in plant foods. It's in walnuts, it's in chia seeds, it's in hemp seeds, it's in walnuts, it's in flax seeds. But there's a very poor conversion to EPA and DHA. These are all omega-3 fats, but they're different chain length. The ALA is an 18 chain carbon, the EPA is a 20 chain carbon, the DHA is a 22 chain carbon. What that means is that the body is actually using enzymes to elongate these molecules, and they have different functions in the body. Now, that jump from ALA to EPA is a big jump that requires a very special enzyme called delta 6 desaturase, and it's a magnesium dependent enzyme. Most Americans are deficient in magnesium, so they're not going to have a very good conversion of this. And if you want to get 1 gram of EPA from fish oil, you could get that in 2 capsules of the stronger capsules. You might have to take 6 capsules of the weaker capsules, but you can get the concentrated fish oil where 2 capsules will give you 1,000 milligrams of EPA from fish. If you're going to get it from flax, which is the highest source of ALA in plants, it's about 50% ALA in terms of the flax oil. You need 20 of those big 1,000 milligram capsules to end up creating the same amount of EPA as 2 concentrated fish oil capsules. So when you're talking about dosing and compliance, fish oils make more sense for the general population. There's people like me who are vegetarians, they don't eat fish. So we have to take these other sources, which are much more dilute, and you have to get a lot more of these oils to do the same thing. And if you're not getting magnesium, all bets are off whether you can convert it. Now, supplements are always safer than fish because there's far lower levels of toxins. In fact, the mercury in fish bonds to the protein, not to the oil. And in studies at Harvard and other places, every fish oil there is tests safe in terms of heavy metals because the heavy metals are not oil soluble. Now, in the journal Nutrients, consumption of long chain omega-3, particularly DHA, the longest one, enhances cognitive performance related to learning, cognitive development, memory, and speed of performing cognitive tasks. And for people who are low in DHA, which includes children with low literacy ability and malnourished and older adults with age-related cognitive decline or mild cognitive impairment, seem to benefit the most by consuming more DHA. Now, there's 3 basic forms of omega-3 from fish oils available: triglyceride, reconverted triglyceride, and ethyl ester form. There's a lot of chatter online about what's the best form. But in the British Journal of Nutrition, they said that there's equal benefits from all 3 forms. The only difference is how long it takes for them to get into your system, because all these forms are stripped down to free fatty acids for digestion to be absorbed. So the triglycerides are removed or the ethyl ester is removed. And therefore, we don't have a difference if you're looking at it over maybe a 24-hour period. The difference is how long it takes to digest these and strip off these extra compounds. Bioavailability is influenced by the fat composition of a meal because these are fat-soluble nutrients. And enteric coating did not help the absorption at all. It simply prevents you from burping up the fat for those few percent of people who tend to burp up fats. And enteric coating will help that, but it doesn't actually help absorption. So the lipid structure of EPA DHA, in other words, which of these 3 forms you choose, doesn't really matter. When you could take any of them and they'll all work. Now, DHA, as I mentioned, is the longest chain essential fatty acid in the omega-3 family. It is a structural component of the retina, the sperm, the testicles, and the brain. The brain is mostly fat, and most of that fat is DHA. And memory cells communicate better and relay messages better when DHA levels are higher. Memory improves on a high DHA diet. That's from Science Daily, which is a very prestigious journal. And in medical news today, diets high in DHA improve memory. Consuming DHA also prevents the accumulation of a toxic molecule at the back of the eye, responsible for age-related vision loss. So if you want to keep your vision as you age, DHA can also be beneficial there. And even in younger people who are healthy, memory and reaction time improve if they're supplementing DHA. Younger women had greater improvements in one aspect of memory, and men had greater improvements in reaction time of working memory. And this is an amount of DHA you can get in as few as 2 strong DHA capsules per day. And again, with people who are 55 and older, omega-3 supplements can help healthy memory functions in these adults. They had almost double the reduction of errors in a test measuring learning and memory skills compared to placebo. The higher the DHA level, the higher the score on the test. And this would be an example of a strong DHA product where you could take two capsules a day and be in the range of those studies of what people were taking. Let's look at the B vitamin family, the B complex of vitamins. And these are vitamin B1, B2, B3, B5, B6, B7, B9, and B12 are actually the ones. A lot of these numbers are not commonly used, but still these are designations. Biotin is not often called vitamin B7, for example. Folate is not often called B9, but those are the official designations. And according to a review in the journal Nutrients, these all have a role in brain and nerves. B1 for acetylcholine, B2 for essential fatty acids, regulating thyroid hormones, B3 for every aspect of brain function, B5 for synthesizing neurotransmitters. B6 for, again, making neurotransmitters, B7 for glucose metabolism, and the brain needs a lot of energy. About 20% of the energy used in the body is from the brain. B9 folate for enzymes that convert amino acids to neurotransmitters. B12 affecting neurotransmitters and other compounds. They all have a role in this, the whole B complex. So you can get B complex by itself. You can also get B complex as part of a multivitamin. They're both legitimate ways to get B complex as a supplement. And there are also forms of the B vitamins that are called coenzyme forms. And these are forms that are in the structures needed in the body. If you take regular B6, that's pyridoxine. This form of B6 is pyridoxal 5-phosphate. So it's a phosphorylated form is the technical term. And that's a way to have it be more bioavailable, and it's already in the form that the body needs. Or B12. There's 2 coenzyme forms of B12, and the one that helps the brain is called methylcobalamin. This is not the form that gives you energy. That's adenosylcobalamin. But this is helps you to synthesize methionine and S-adenyl methionine, which is the body's main methyl donor. So that's an important one. And you need it for myelin sheath, which lines the nerves like insulation on an electrical wire. You need it for red blood formation. You need it for DNA synthesis. You need it for lipids, for the fats that are used in the brain and the nerves, and to protect neurons. Choline is something that's got a lot of recent press because it only recently got an RDA, a recommended daily allowance. And it's typically found in foods like egg yolk would be a key source. Your body needs choline to make cell membranes, to make nerve coatings, and to make cell walls. The structural integrity of cell walls depends on choline. And it's also essential for pregnant women. You need it for acetylcholine, you need it for early brain development, but you also need it for brain and nervous system functions. And the recent RDA is now 550 milligrams a day is the general one. And you'll see that on labels as a daily value because all these numbers you see on this chart, the FDA synthesizes into a single number. They take the RDAs and they make a daily value. So instead of all these different numbers, they give you a single number to put on food labels, including supplements. So that number is 550 milligrams for choline. And 75% of adults consume less than the RDA. In Central Nervous System Drug Journal, they list over-the-counter supplements for memory, and they are the ones who say this. And you can get choline with its partner inositol that also is essential for brain and nervous system health. Inositol also functions as a secondary insulin source to help control blood sugar, especially in the brain, because the brain is so dependent on energy. And these are two nutrients you'll also find in the nutrient lecithin. Lecithin contains phosphatidylcholine and phosphatidylainositol, but mostly choline. You need it for acetylcholine, and it's a way to make sure you have enough acetylcholine, which is one of the most important neurotransmitters. Now, the compounds in lecithin are called phospholipids, like phosphatidylcholine. The body uses lecithin to metabolize and move fats. It uses lecithin to make cell membranes. It uses lecithin to coat nerves. It uses lecithin to transport fats and other nutrients into the brain. And it's also a component of the neurotransmitter acetylcholine. Now, the main sources of lecithin you can get are egg lecithin, which is not that common anymore, soy lecithin, which is very common, and sunflower lecithin for people who are avoiding soy. So it also has the phosphotylinositol, phosphatidylethanolamin, and other essential fatty acids. So it's just an alternative to soy lecithin. And acetylcholine actually carries nerve signals from one nerve to another nerve, from one neuron to another neuron. And there are other nutrients that are helping the process. If you take a choline source such as alpha GPC or choline itself or phosphatidylcholine, you have the choline needed to make acetylcholine. Phosphatidylserine, which is manufactured from phosphatidylcholine in the liver, and you could also buy it as a supplement, stimulates the release of acetylcholine. And there's an extract from Chinese club moss called huperzine A that has an enzyme that blocks the breakdown of acetylcholine to maintain higher acetylcholine levels. So you will find all these nutrients in various brain formulas. Acetylcholine requires choline to promote the production of acetylcholine. It certainly helps if you take huperzine A. to maintain the levels and phosphatidylserine to release it. The amount that we synthesize is not sufficient to meet human needs. According to the National Institutes of Health, we need this from the diet, the choline. And supplement is one way to get it in the diet. Choline plays a role in brain development, may improve memory. And when they gave choline supplements in rat studies, the brain changes to memory were so noticeable that researchers could identify the animals that had gotten supplemental choline as babies. Even when they were elderly rats, they behaved differently. It affected them their entire life. Alpha GPC is another form of choline that's very bioavailable and crosses the blood-brain barrier. And that's another form available as a supplement. Double-blind, placebo-controlled studies show that it improves cognitive scores and global brain function. Versus placebo, you can see over 90 and 180-day period, there is a dramatic difference between placebo and supplementation with this choline source. Huperzine A, I mentioned already. Now, only a small amount of Huperzine A absorbs very well, and we see in an 8 and 12-week period that there's improvements in mental health, in mental acuity, and in the ability to do daily activities. Significant differences are indicated by the asterisks over the squares on the red line. Phosphatidylserine we need for this cell membrane composition for electrical impulses. And you can get a lot of these together in formulas like the Brain Elevate. Excuse me. A lot of these components are available in combination formulas. Now, inositol I mentioned with choline as one of the B vitamins. It's a second messenger system in the brain. And inositol levels are much higher in the cerebral spinal fluid. And they regulate osmotic pressure. So it's been found as a modulator of the excitability of neurons, of toning down neurons and calming the brain. Another category are the amino acids. Here's the ones we're going to look at: 5-HTP, acetyl L-carnitine, GABA, L-theanine, L-tryptophan, L-tyrosine, and taurine. Acetyl L-carnitine, because of the acetyl group that the brain wants to make acetylcholine, one of the components, it helps the carnitine cross the blood-brain barrier. It acts as a free radical fighter. Remember at the beginning with the NIH saying that free radical damage and oxidative damage and inflammatory damage are two of the major causes of brain aging. So helping with cellular energy and optimal brain function. It can inhibit our body's stress response system to maintain normal levels of the stress hormone cortisol, to help with mood and stress. Highly effective in supporting mood regulation. GABA is a non-essential amino acid we can make from glutamic acid in the diet if there's enough B6, but it inhibits neurotransmitter activity in the human brain, and that's a good thing because it regulates the number of neurons firing to help relaxation and ease nervous tension, help with healthy sleep, and to calm. It's thought to play a major role in controlling hyperactivity associated with nerves causing stress and fear. Now, L-DOPA is an amino acid you can actually get from certain beans. L-DOPA plays a role in mood regulation and positive effect. Dopamine has been related to the feeling people get by eating chocolate, that feel-good feeling. But it's a precursor of epinephrine and norepinephrine, which is so L-DOPA, the amino acid, can help make dopamine and in turn epinephrine and norepinephrine important neurotransmitters. And beans like Empyreans, we're talking about fava beans and similar beans contain L-DOPA. And L-DOPA can cross the blood-brain barrier, which dopamine itself cannot. And then it can produce the dopamine in the brain for positive mood. And L-DOPA also helps make a lot of enzymes. And we can actually make L-DOPA in the stomach, the intestinal mucosa, and the liver. So it's so important that there's multiple places that the body can manufacture it. So velvet bean, fava beans are two of the best sources, and some of them contain significant amounts, up to 15% L-DOPA by dry weight. And L-DOPA absorbs really well. We're looking at the absorption in less than an hour or so, of almost full absorption of it, just almost straight up line. L-tryptophan is an essential amino acid. If you look at the list of essential amino acids, it's always one of the lower numbers in terms of how many milligrams in a complete protein. But it's a precursor of melatonin, serotonin. It regulates mood and stress and sleep. Now, the body makes tryptophan from, or turns tryptophan into serotonin through an intermediate called 5-HTP, 5-hydroxytryptophan. You can get 5-HTP from another plant, from a bean, and that is the immediate precursor of serotonin and in turn melatonin, which are relaxing, feel-good compounds, neurotransmitters, but they're also regulate the timing of what happens in the body. When does the body make stomach acid? When does it do repairs? When does it sleep? When does it relax? The circadian rhythm and timing are controlled by serotonin and melatonin. L-tyrosine is a non-essential amino acid converted from the dietary amino acid L-phenylalanine. And it supports mental alertness, dopamine and norepinephrine production, stress response, healthy thyroid production. The pigment in the skin is made from tyrosine. It has a lot of roles in the body. Now, taurine, and there's no such thing as L-taurine. There's only one form. L form is in relation to a D form. In amino acids, L form is natural, D form is synthetic. If you see a DL form, it is a synthesized half natural, half synthetic. Like DL-methionine is a common one. But taurine has one form. It's all a natural form. So there's no optical rotation is what they say. It regulates nerve impulses and fluid balance. It helps regulate the sodium in the body. It's used in the brain and nervous system as a neurotransmitter and the eyes. L-theanine is an amino acid in green tea that relaxes you without drowsiness or negative side effects. It's a free radical fighter, an antioxidant type compound, and it helps with cardiovascular function. This is one of the reasons why you could take green tea and you do not get the caffeine side effects you get from coffee when you equalize the amount of caffeine. Because it's similar to glutamine, it regulates glutamine neuroexcitatory toxicity because it bonds to glutamate receptors to block glutamate Glutamate, like MSG, is known to overexcite neurons and cause nerve damage, nerve death, as well as getting you overexcited and give headaches, all that kind of thing. Theanine actually fits the receptors and blocks that to some extent. But it also helps synthesize polyphenols and is shown to have antioxidant properties. Now, here's a study I found I really like. A single dose of 200 milligrams of theanine was found to affect blood pressure and prevent the normal increase in blood pressure when someone took 250 milligrams of caffeine, which is like 16 ounces of coffee. So the amount of caffeine in 2 cups of coffee, 2 8-ounce cups of coffee, can be neutralized in terms of the effect on raising blood pressure by taking theanine at the same time. There's also combination formulas with amino acids. We have the True Focus formula. This is designed by Julia Ross, a clinician in California, who uses that. We actually got permission to use her formula and sell it to the public. So this is her formula she uses in her clinic, clinically developed product containing these amino acids to help with mental clarity, focus, mental acuity, and it contains tyrosine, phenylalanine, taurine. It has ginkgo for circulation. It has the B6 to convert these things into their forms you need. It has the grapeseed extract and CoQ10. So, it does what you want it to do. True focus. So the body uses these precursors, tyrosine and phenylalanine, and vitamin C and B6 as cofactors to make norepinephrine and dopamine as neurotransmitters for alertness and mental acuity. There's also formulas like mood support that combine botanicals with amino acids. This has 5-HTP, GABA, taurine, and theanine, along with St. John's wort and holy basil, and some vitamins and minerals as cofactors. This is not for people on mood altering medications. There's a long list of cautions on the left here for that, mostly in that regard. But for somebody who's just trying to manage their own mood without the medications, it's certainly worth looking at. Healthy nervous system and positive balanced mood. We also use amino acids in formulas for sleep. This one has GABA, which is, again, relaxing, kind of controlling neurotransmitter amino acid, but we've combined the traditional valerian, hops, and passion flower so that you get the relaxing and sleep effects of the 3 botanicals. Or we have sleep regimen 3-in-1. This has theanine, 5-HTP, and melatonin. So we have 5-HTP to make serotonin. Serotonin makes melatonin, but we're already giving you some melatonin to help you sleep. And we have the theanine, which is calming. So you can calm the brain and relax and go to sleep at the same time. And since we're talking about botanicals, let's get a little deeper into those woods. Ashwagandha, really, really, really popular. It's a tonic or adaptogenic herb. An adaptogen is defined as an herb with multiple nonspecific actions that counteract the effects of stress and generally promote wellness. So it's a tonic herb. Now, this is a study showing reduction in all 4 measures of stress in adults. Cortisol is one, but there's several other measures that they use. And this is 300 milligram of a full spectrum extract twice a day, easily attainable in 2 or 3 pills. And you can see dramatic change in stress measurements. Ashwagandha drops way down. The percent change is much greater than with placebo. It's a traditional Ayurvedic herb from India. And it also tends to help with immune system function and influencing the activation of immune cells such as the lymphocytes. The active compounds are called withanolides. They're steroidal, which is just they're not steroids like athletes would take. They're steroids like vitamin D is a steroid. So it's just a class of compounds. But they resemble the active constituents of Panax ginseng. So they have similar properties, and it has been in fact called Ayurvedic ginseng, although it's not a true ginseng. It has similar properties. And they affect the GABA system. They help the immune system, and they're free radical neutralizing. And since they can cross the blood-brain barrier, you can get these effects on immunity and free radical neutralizing in the brain. And remember, I said I was going to keep going back to that NIH slide about aging of the brain, inflammation, and oxidation. We're going right back to that now. So not only did volunteers in an ashwagandha group have significant improvement in ability to deal with stress versus placebo, but improvements in their self-evaluation of quality of life. Now, curcumin is from turmeric, the spice. It's really popular too. It's a free radical neutralizer, but it's poorly bioavailable. Taking the 95% curcuminoid extract, the most common form you can get, even at high doses of 8 grams, which is like 16 capsules, no detectable or low serum curcumin levels. And for the low levels, they were taking 10 to 12 grams of curcumin, which is like 20 to 24 capsules to even detect it in the bloodstream. It is really poorly bioavailable. Now, in turmeric, it's highly bioavailable. The bioavailability is about 40 times greater than the 95% curcuminoid common extract that's available. When it's extracted, you destroy the soluble matrix that allows it to be well absorbed in the spice. So there's strategies to convert it to a more bioavailable form to increase solubility and bioavailability. They use solvents, they use dispersants, they use detergents, they use natural or synthetic, they use fat or water soluble things. All kinds of strategies are used to restore the initial bioavailability of curcumin that got lost when it got extracted. And what you want in the bloodstream is free curcumin. No metabolites, no conjugations, no attachments. Free curcumin is the active form in the bloodstream. So all these things they're attaching to it have to be removed at some point for it to have its effect. Now, we settled on the best one for the brain being the Longvita material developed at UCLA Brain and Memory Clinic. And this is a solid lipid curcumin particle. They've made a solid fat to transport it, but it releases free curcumin in the brain, in the bloodstream and into the brain, kind of uniquely. So this diagram kind of shows you they encase it in a liposome type particle and they release it at the optimal point for absorption in the GI tract, where you end up with free curcumin that can circulate and have all the benefits you want from curcumin, which you don't get from these things with other attachments. So even though there's only 1/3 curcumin in this material, it's absorbed at least 22 times better. So when you're looking at equalizing the dose of curcumin versus the 95% material, it's 65 times more bioavailable than the 95% material. 65 times. The half-life goes up more too. The half-life is about an hour on the 95% curcuminoid material. The half-life of this is about 7 hours. So it lasts longer. And you see the term glucuronidated here. That's a term meaning the liver has detoxified it. It is not an active form. It will not do anything in the body anymore. It's already gone through a liver detox to make it inert. So a lot of companies are measuring how much absorbed by taking glucuronidated material that is not active anymore and tearing it apart with an enzyme, glucuronidase enzyme, so that they could see how much absorbed. But you're not taking this product to see how much absorbed, you're taking it for a benefit. You want the curcumin to do its job. You don't want to just have it go in the body and do nothing. And that's the paradox of curcumin. Some of the best absorbed forms don't do anything because of what they're attached to and how the body gets rid of it as quickly as it goes in. Now, free curcumin will pass the blood-brain barrier. Glucuronidated material by design will not, because the brain has detoxified that. It has been locked up. It's in a paddy wagon being taken to jail and being dumped out of the body. It's being exiled. It can't do anything. It's locked up. So glucuronidated material, you can measure it all you want. Yes, it absorbs, but it doesn't do anything. You want free curcumin to have the benefit. So Longvita material lets free curcumin penetrate the blood-brain barrier to protect the brain tissue from free radical attack, which is a cause of brain aging, as we mentioned several times. And it also lowers the level of beta amyloid protein, a risk factor for Alzheimer's. Another good thing. These are healthy volunteers. And over a dozen studies show improvement of working memory and attention, taking 2 capsules a day for 30 days. So it's not a huge dose either. Curcumin group had better working memory at 12 weeks, better performance on pattern separation tests, and significantly lower fatigue scores at both 4 and 12 weeks, and lowering tension, anger, confusion, and mood disturbance at only 4 weeks of use. And these are some slides from the company that is selling the Longvita material that's representing the UCLA scientists. Cognitive health, 25% improvement in working memory compared to placebo. Cardiovascular health, 40% increase in plasma nitric oxide for cardiovascular health. 75% increase in plasma catalase supporting antioxidant activity against oxidative stress. 15% reduction in fatigue. 10% reduction in a signal of inflammation related to immunity. I mean, these are, and it's a small dose. 400 milligrams of this material is all you need to get these results. Multiple clinical studies, healthy middle-aged adults, supports cognitive health with tangible results, and contentedness, calmness, and improved mood within 4 weeks. For women's health, specifically, increases memory, mood, attention, and learning in healthy adults, may alleviate symptoms of brain fog, promotes mood, working memory, and is the first area impacted by cognitive decline. So it's improving an area that is the first to show cognitive decline, reducing tension and anxiety, 16%. In healthy adults, reducing anger, hostility, 17% at 4 weeks, 36% at 12 weeks, and reducing fatigue. These are all healthy adults. So here's kind of a summary of all that stuff. You see a lot of different things helping brain and mood and energy. And who doesn't need improved brain, mood, and energy? And let's switch gears and look at lion's mane. Isn't that beautiful? It's a mushroom. I take this myself, by the way. Large white shaggy, they've been used culinarily as a food mushroom. It's now available as a supplement. We're using certified organic material with natural beta glucans, and they support neuronal health. And magnesium regulates the density of the synapse in the neurons, the distance between the neuron ends. You need magnesium in the brain to stabilize and adapt these connections. Over 20% of energy produced in the body is consumed by the brain, and magnesium helps the brain produce energy. It also helps with optimal nerve transmission, neuromuscular conduction, oxidative stress again. If you don't have enough magnesium, reduced cognitive performance. Low levels of magnesium can lead to excess glutamate in the brain, like that MSG type syndrome, overexcited nerve damage and death. Glutamate excitotoxicity can occur without magnesium. And magtine is the form of magnesium that crosses the blood-brain barrier. This is actually our #1 selling product, magtine. And we're the #1 product on this in sold nationwide. It's a magnesium salt of threonic acid. Threonic acid is a metabolite of vitamin C, by the way. It's the same metabolite that's used in ester C, if you're familiar with that. It crosses the blood-brain barrier, increases magnesium concentrations in the central nervous system, and supports the plasticity, the adaptability of the synapses of the nerve and the nerve connections. And when they compared it to other commercially available forms of magnesium, much more got through the cerebral spinal fluid, through the blood-brain barrier than the other forms. If you look at this, the only one that's well above the neutral level, the 100, is the magtine. Magtine absorbed greater than any other form. Only magtine was shown to have a significant effect on the raising the magnesium in the cerebral spinal fluid, passing the blood-brain barrier. A 12-week randomized double-blind placebo-controlled human study. They found improvements in various domains: executive function, working memory, attention, and episodic memory. Significant results in 6 weeks, highly significant results in 12 weeks versus placebo. And executive function, they showed a 9-year reduction in what's called brain age with 12 weeks of supplementation. And it reduced stress and tension. So the actual age was, the initial brain age was 69.6. Post-treatment, the brain age was 60.3. And these are people with an average age of about 58. So the after treatment for this period, 12 weeks, the brain reverted from being about 12 years older than the actual age to being only about 2 years older than the actual age of the person. So that concludes the presentation. If anyone has any questions, happy to discuss that. Had some very exciting nutrients here, though, didn't we? So we'll return this to Elizabeth to take over as the host.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Neil. No,
Sure.
that was really amazing about the how the um magtine
Yep.
and how it was the L3 and 8.
Yeah. What magnesium is attached to, they call those transporters. So when you have a mineral and it's attached to something, what it's attached to affect where that mineral goes and what it does. So with the 3
Oh,
and 8, it can cross the blood-brain barrier better than these other forms like citrate or malate or gluconate, chloride. They
yeah.
all have somewhere they go, but not necessarily the brain.
And that's really wonderful because like you were mentioning earlier, a lot of people are magnesium deficient, and that helps so many different processes of the body. I actually had a couple questions. Do you have a product formula that is the magtine and potassium for those folks that tend to have some issues balancing electrolytes since it's summer? And also, what's your favorite electrolyte product?
Well, we do sell a magnesium potassium combination in a capsule. It's not Magtine. Because if you're going for the muscles or the legs, for example, often people take these nutrients for the legs. You don't necessarily want it to all go pumping up into the brain and the central nervous system.
Yeah, so that's the L-threonate is best for brain, and then
Right.
you had said
Yeah,
the
malate's good for muscles.
citrate.
The chloride is good for electrolytes. Yeah, they all have different functions based on what the magnesium is attached to.
Gotta love science. Ex
These aren't Buddhist nutrients. They all have attachments. The
ah,
minerals.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's how I'm gonna remember it.
Yeah.
So I often get brain fog. My body tends to have a hard time with detoxing, although I use an infrared sauna often and do cold plunges, balancing my inflammation responses, limiting intake of free radicals as much as I can, and strengthening my gut health helps. But what would be the best product to start with to help improve my brain health?
Well, if you're talking about brain fog, you're probably talking more about neurotransmitters. So the amino acid based formulas would probably
Okay.
be the best.
And that was more at the beginning of the presentation, correct?
Yeah, we have a product called Brain Elevate that's a combination. We have the True Calm that is specifically for calming. There's different formulas for different purposes. But for just cognitive function, it would be Brain Elevate. For relaxing the brain, it would be the True Calm.
Okay,
So different things for different people.
perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, and also, so the sleep Z's, um, I believe I might
That
not
three
be.
in one sleep.
Oh, yes. So the 3-in-1 sleep, I noticed it had melatonin in it. And I know some people, including myself, I wake up too groggy or have other sleep dis disturbances, and then I have really odd dreams with valerian. Do you have a sleep formula without either of those? Or,
Yeah, there's strict herbal ones, for example, or is there's the one with the herbs, the three herbs and the GABA.
oh, okay,
Remember that one?
yeah, sweet.
It had the hops, valerian, I forget, skullcap or whatever is the third one, and then the GABA.
Well, that one has my name on it.
Yeah. Well, one thing, if you take melatonin, you get groggy, you're getting too much.
Yeah,
You're getting too high a dose.
I think I tried like even like a point 3 milligram one time, but then I had started out with like a 5 milligram and it was way too much.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah. I mean, we make like a 1 milligram, there's low dose ones you could get.
oh, good. Well,
Some
I'm
of the
actually,
ones under 1 milligram are covered by the patent of the guy who did all the research on that.
oh,
So a
really?
lot of the real low strength are patented and available only by certain brands or as a medication.
Oh, snap. I did not know that. Yeah, and especially with happy summer, everyone who's watching.
Yes,
So
summer.
with the sun staying out longer, we need to really be careful about turning off our electronics and making sure that our circadian rhythm can start building up that melatonin, correct?
Yeah, it's actually more important to have bright sunlight or bright light during the day to activate your other hormones. And then when the darkness comes, the contrast allows that conversion of serotonin to melatonin.
So get outside, folks, and soak up some
Yeah,
sunshine.
you need a
Fill up
contrast
your
between the
feet.
bright day and the darker night. It's not so much the screens themselves, it's the lack of contrast.
Ah,
You need that stimulation during the day and then the lack of stimulation at night.
perfect. Thank you, Neil.
Yep.
Let's see. I think I also had one other question. Oh yeah, what's the electrolyte product that you guys have?
Well, we have the electrolyte that are these tablets in they're effervescent tablets.
Oh, that's right.
The
Yes.
tubes with the effervescent tablets, that's our electrolyte products.
Fabulous. And we are going to have Brian, the sports manager department of now going to be speaking with us. We will miss you, Neil, but we're grateful we're able to still make that happen. So
Yeah,
thanks.
we have a deep bench. Brian Moran is our sports category manager, and he's very knowledgeable and he formulates products, with the team, including me. But he knows what's going on in the marketplace and stuff, and he's a very good presenter. So he's better looking than me too. So
Oh no, I wouldn't say
uh,
that.
I did.
Well, there you go, folks. Join us with Brian Wednesday, the 17th at 5 o'clock. We typically have classes on Tuesdays or Thursdays, but join us for this very special opportunity on Wednesday, July 17th. And thank you, everyone, for watching.
Thanks to everyone. We appreciate Marlene's and we appreciate you, Elizabeth. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Neil. Always a pleasure.